Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of my podcast. My name is Jamie, and with me, I'm not alone. I have one of my dearest friends, Grace, and we met each other kind of off of social media, following this spiritual psychic kind of group and everything, and have really gotten close and doing pretty much the same thing, trying to juggle our life and balance our businesses and still have a whole lot of fun with that.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, Grace, want to share anything about yourself that you want to throw in there?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me, Jamie. It's fun to do this
Huh.
together. Um, I love when you talk to me about doing this podcast and sitting and talking. It's like, well, we do this anyways. We might as well just record it and let people kind of
Uh-huh.
listen if they're interested. So I'm really excited to chat with you today. I also work as a psychic medium. I also work as an intuitive coach too. Like Jamie mentioned, that's how one of the main I guess pillars of our friendship. I consider you like a coworker. I always say this because we do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just a very, far apart geographically, but it's really, really nice to have you to like call up at the end of a long day of readings and be like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
this and this happened today. Has this ever happened to you? Please, let me know I'm not alone here. So that's one of the things I most appreciate about our friendship is being able to share that with you.
Uh-huh.
So
So much fun. I like it when you're like, a cat licked me today. A dog was licking my toes today. Has that ever happened to you? And I'm like, no.
And just so everyone's clear, this is a cat or a dog in spirit. These are pets that we intuitively read. And yeah, oftentimes I do feel pets, how they would maybe interact with their owners or how they try and get attention. And sometimes dogs really do like to lick toes. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
People seem to identify when I say it. So sorry you
Yeah.
haven't had that experience yet, but it's a cool one.
The closest thing that I've had of a spirit or an animal kind of interacting with me is a kid will, play around with my puppy, Cody. Or when I do readings in my car, because I do that kind of often, someone will be like sitting in the front seat with me and it's cute, it's cool, it's different. I love what we do. And I like how it's different for the both of us because most of mine, I feel like I keep the spirits and everyone at arm's kind of length. And it's just like, back and forth telepathic kind of talk. But the stories that I hear from you, it's more of like, they're looking at me, they're laughing at me. It's more of like they're cohabiting, like your space or whatever. You have
Yeah.
funny stories.
Yeah. There is that difference when we talk. And it's, that's an interesting thing to think about and keep thinking about why that is, or if I can invite elements of your reading style into how I read, and you can invite some of the elements how I do it into your reading, just to play around with different ways to read spirits. But you saying that makes me think of the time that, and this fits in perfectly with my background. If you watch this on video, I'm sitting in
Mm-hmm.
my attic space, and there's kind of this background behind me, but it is like an attic where there is old boxes stored and different odds and ends, and I celebrate Christmas, all the Christmas decorations are over there. And so one time I was reading a woman, and I believe it was her grandmother who was passed in spirit, but a family member of hers, and she was very sassy. And when I read, I really ask for spirits to be very blunt and to be very much themselves, the humans, that they were on earth. I want their personality to come through as much as possible and as familiar to the person who I'm giving the reading to as possible. So this woman was very sassy, this grandma spirit. And she looked around and she was like, are you in a freaking attic? She goes, where do you live? This is the spirit. And I was on the phone with her granddaughter and I was dying laughing. I was like, I'm sorry, but I'm sitting in my attic right now. Your grandmother was just like judging me hardcore for sitting in this attic and, and doing this here. I thought that was really funny.
Uh-huh. That's cute. That is fun. I used to have, well, I still do sometimes celebrities and stuff in my space because when I do my coaching classes, we connect with people. And that's where I would like clean up my house. I remember one time I had just moved in and I was like, I don't even have curtains or furniture in this place. Like, what is Princess Diana going to think of this? But I feel like it's never, they're never looking around or observing or judging me in my space.
I love it. But you're like, royalty is coming over today. I have to clean up my act.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And you do a lot of the spirit readings. I haven't gotten yet into too much of the spirit reading stuff. I'm not that into a lot of the pop culture phenomenons
Mm-hmm.
that most people are. I tend to actually be kind of nerdy. There's certain people that they're dead, like either historical figures or kind of scientists and stuff. And those are more the people where I'm like, oh, I wonder if I could connect with them in spirit and try and figure out what the heck they're talking about. But no one ever
Uh-huh.
really seems to know who it is
Yeah.
I want to talk to.
Like, you should definitely try Albert Einstein because he's very lifey and nice and has like this is manifestation and it describes and explains everything in a different kind of
Mm.
way. As far as spirits, is there anyone like interesting that you've, I mean, ever connected with that hasn't been like a family member? I'm
Well,
just
I will
curious.
say Albert Einstein, I tried once or twice, maybe when practicing my younger days, like not that long ago. And he was funny because he very quirky, very sweet, but he kept trying to show me physics, like schematics. He kept trying to show me these different schematics of
Mm-hmm.
how technical things work, like in the
Mm-hmm.
universe, a lot of physics principles. And when I wasn't getting it, he got frustrated and just moved on. He was like
Uh-huh.
so excited to talk to me about this stuff, and then I really didn't get it. And he was kind of just like, well, I mean, I could stay and chat or I could just go. And I was like, oh, it's okay. You can just leave now.
Oh, I love that. I have the same kind of story. So good confirmation on you.
Yeah.
One time recently, I was connecting with him with a coaching student. She's smart. She does, I don't know, collegey kind of stuff. And I was seeing the same thing of like E triangle, this kind of stuff. And I was like,
Formula.
let me write this down. I think this might be something. And so that's all it was. It was like E square root equals E squared. I was like, that's all I got. I don't know what this means. And it was like, okay, let's move on.
I feel like he's probably in spirit up there going, dang it, not the one. One of these days,
Yep.
there's going to be a psychic medium who also is so into physics that he's just going to be able to finally have that conversation with someone.
Mm-hmm. Someone's going to get that breakthrough, that download, that knowledge of time, space, travel.
Yeah, someone will. When it happens, I'm here for it. I think it'll be really great.
Like we tried.
We tried. We did try. We were part of it in the beginning, real early. I'm trying to think
Mm-hmm.
who I've connected with. There's just a lot of like famous people I don't really know, which I know sounds
Yeah.
ridiculous, but I don't watch a lot of movies and I'm not into too much pop culture. So I've connected with artists like when practicing before, Salvatore Dali once, and he was really cool. And I had no clue. I mean, very ignorant over here. I didn't know his art. Now I know that he had the animals that looked weird shade. He was the artist who did the clocks that were hanging off the side, like technically
Oh, Alice in Wonderland looking stuff.
kind of, yeah. But it was interesting because a lot of information came through about his personal life and then his views on politics. And my friends that I were talking to, what that I was talking with and doing this with, they were able to confirm all this stuff about his personal life. Like they wanted to ask about his art, and he in spirit, and he's been in spirit for a while, decades. He was over his art. He was like, it's just something I kind of just doodled or did like while I was here. Like, like I want to talk about this, and I forget what his stance was, but he really wanted to talk about politics, like modern day politics, and he really wanted to talk about like his family and like relationshipy stuff. So we did, and it was really fascinating. But yeah,
Oh.
that's the last one I
Mm-hmm.
remember that was really that unexpected.
Yeah, that's kind of why I asked you that question because we know them as like this kind of person and what the media knows, but what we get when we're connecting and tapping into them is like my family, how much love they have, how smart or whatever kind of stuff that they want to share. That's my favorite thing. Like when I connected to Tupac, I'm really bringing that up because it was the last person I connected to. It was like all of this life advice, all of this like nice stuff
Mm.
that you don't really get from people's grandmas and things like that in our readings.
Yeah, and I'm thinking how sometimes you and I will, if a celebrity recently dies or if there's someone famous, we'll both feel into it and we'll both be like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. Like this isn't fun to talk to. And separately we're like, so oftentimes people talk about celebrities and I can kind of feel their presence. And I'm like, I don't think that soul is yet in a place where it's either moved through everything it's been through and its public perception and kind of being able to hear, feel, and see everyone and how they are reacting to and thinking of them. Maybe they haven't moved through that yet, or they're just maybe not someone who like you're saying wants to like give life advice for the world. Maybe they just want to move
Mm-hmm.
on to the next
Yeah.
plane or the next place, and that's very respectable too. But I think it was, what is it, Robin Williams? Both of us, I tried to feel into Robin Williams for like 10 seconds and I was like, oof, it felt heavy. It felt dark. It did not malicious
Mhm.
or mean, but it just felt like there was a lot going on there. And I did not have
Mhm.
time or the purpose or the setting to really sit and dig into and dive into that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. In my coaching and stuff, when it's like, okay, do you want to feel into people? Do you want to feel something a little bit heavy or really, really happy? Do you want to feel a person like this? Robin Williams is Mike. You're gonna feel his energy. It's gonna feel like a woof kind of different shift, what you weren't expecting. But yeah, yeah, that's interesting. That makes me think of how you can feel into someone and everyone gets like different things. I don't know if you've ever seen YouTube stuff where they're channeling or connecting with someone. There is people who connect to Robin Williams, but it's very, very happy. So I've always been like, where'd you get that? Or how strange or peculiar or interesting that your perspective is so, so, so different of, you're so, so happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that is why I not shy away, but I think a lot of the connecting with celebrity or like historical figures I keep to myself personally or private, because you do wonder like how people have such different impressions of the same soul, and without assuming that they're wrong or that they're full of it, maybe they just have a different process for accessing it, or maybe the information that they're bringing through has a different
Mm-hmm.
reason or angle. It has a different purpose maybe than what I'm accessing. So I want to have respect for that. But it is interesting how people will get very different things. I know we talked about Michael Jackson is a huge one that people love to channel or connect with. And I've seen a whole range of stuff of people channeling Michael Jackson. I was scrolling on Instagram the other day and I saw someone was going live on Instagram to channel I almost texted you too, to channel Michael Jackson about how he felt about the Free Britney movement. And that he really wants Britney freed, and the conservatorship, whatever that fancy word is,
Yeah.
he wanted it over and ended. And I was like, this is really funny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's fun. You should
It
have
all serves a
messaged me.
purpose. Yeah.
Hmm. It also reminds me of when our mutual friends, somebody passed away, and we were like connecting to him. This is what he looks like. And I was like, he's happy, he's good, blah, blah. And you felt that he was more reserved because he was transitioning. You said, I think that I was connecting to his higher kind of self version. That makes a lot of sense because the information that I bring through is like happy, they're good, they're okay. They want you to know that they're okay. They want you to be okay. Don't worry about it. But your way of working is like connecting more to like the emotional stuff. I feel of like, hey, we're giving them space, we're giving them time to process through this or move through this, where I feel like, hey, are you happy? Let me pass that on. Okay, anything else?
And both reading styles are great, especially
Yeah.
depending on what someone wants, from a reading. I think both can serve a really, really great purpose. That's really fun. I forgot all about that though. So I was going to say too, I do think the great thing about reading into celebrities or historical figures, if you are someone who's listening and you want to practice intuition, psychic mediumship skills, is to have a friend look up someone you have no clue who they are, what they are. So maybe a historical figure, someone who has a Wikipedia page, right, that your friends can check, and
Mm-hmm.
or even yourself, you can find the name of someone and tap in, call that spirit forward, get basic information, and then try and fact check yourself on the internet, because that is really powerful when you're able to call an energy forward by name and you know that they lived in the 1700s, the 1800s, and you're able to get, where they live, say in America, like what environment they lived in, if they had a family, how long they lived, what their cause of death was, all these good questions, or like factual things, right? And then you can
Mm-hmm.
fact check yourself. That is really where I started, because I was thinking, how did we get started and all this kind of like, oh, I'm just going to go and tap into Princess Diana. But when you're practicing, it's a great thing to do, is to call forward kind of semi-famous people you don't know
Mm-hmm.
nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can feel into them.
I was going to ask you, how do you get past like that unworthiness of they're a celebrity, they don't want to talk to me?
Oh, great question. Because just the exercise that I just mentioned, because a lot of my journey of proving to myself or trusting and believing in myself that I am psychic, that I am intuitive, has been, I don't know where this stuff comes from, but it's right. I'm putting right in
Mm-hmm.
quote, right? It either resonates with the person that I'm reading for, or like I said, how the heck would I have known that this historical person who lived in Boston in the 1600s, had 4 kids and died in his 30s of a flu, like whatever those facts are that I'm able to bring through. And then can be coordinated or fact checked, on a Wikipedia page or something like that. Then I'm like, well, heck, like I have a good imagination, but this is coming from somewhere. So
Yeah.
the doubt and the, wondering if this is right or if this is wrong, I think it's kind of a constant, not constant, but it's something I think you and I always have to play a part with, just because there are so many doubters on the internet. I mean, the internet is an amazing and a scary place for many reasons. So in what we do, there's always going to be kind of that energy coming at us. So the more that we can prove to
Mhm.
ourselves that, like, no, all right, I'm not God. I don't know this 100% of the time. I'm not always right. I'm the first person to say I'm not always right, but I'm pretty dang good. And I'm on it when it comes to this. And I'm really good at reading into these type of situations and getting to know ourselves and our reading style better. That's
Mhm.
how I kind of handle that. How about you?
Yeah. I like the way that you do that, kind of just like sitting with yourself and just fact checking yourself and seeing like what you can get. Cause I feel like that's the most important thing. At first, you have to believe in yourself, then you have to believe in yourself, and you have to trust yourself, and then kind of like get started in everything that you can kind of do. Um, I like to do that as well, but I feel into the energy and then to get like past the unworthiness, like, am I kind of like making up other than I just tapped into something or I feel something kind of differently. I ask for permission and I say, like, if this
Mhm.
person's not too busy, or Robin Williams or whatever wants to come through, let's kind of see what happens. So, yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. And I think that, or I feel more than I feel this to be true, that no one is right 100% of the time. I think even
Mm-hmm.
those psychics out there or those intuitives out there that charge, $600 for 15 minutes or some crazy astronomical price, they could be very good, but I don't think anyone's right 100% of the time. I don't think any intuitive can sit with you and tell you your life or tell you your experience, and
Mm-hmm.
if that's what they're selling, I would turn around.
Run.
I would hang up the phone, I would run, I would block them, I would turn the other way, because those tend to be either the scammers or just people who are very connected, but they've got some other type of energetic flow where they're really out there thinking that they are the only ones who can bring to the information and that they can
Mm-hmm.
sit there and tell you something about your life.
Mm-hmm.
That to me just feels all types of twisted. I know you and I both, our reading style is definitely about empowerment, and it's about helping anyone that we're working with, whether it's a reading or someone who we're coaching or someone we're just talking to. Like, it's all about helping that person feel more empowered in what they know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like what you brought up about nobody's right 100% of the time, because when you were reminding me of that, I was like against that of like, well, I need to be right. I am right because growing up intuitive, we know things. And so when you get not that ego, but I know things, I know things. Uh, I would tell you, like, I had a bad reading because the lady had red hair and she said the lady didn't have red hair. And I don't understand why I keep seeing people having different color hair than what they're supposed to be having. And you brought up, like, maybe this is so you can learn the lesson of nobody's right 100%. So it was literally like comedical that my guides or this person was showing up this kind of way so I could learn that lesson and like get over that stupid hump. No,
Mhm.
it's okay.
Yeah, because sometimes, I mean, in any profession, not just being a psychic medium, we have our crutches, right? And so that might have been a crutch
Mm-hmm.
for you that you're pushing past, right? And that not just you, but your team is pushing you past so that you can become a stronger reader and better, which you are, which is really, really cool to watch. It, like, everything grow. It's so special.
Yeah.
And that makes me think of, we both of us have grown up knowing things either that we shouldn't have a reason to know, or that, no one ever told us. And I'm just now starting to really look back on my life and realize those moments where I don't know how I knew that. I don't know how I did that, but recently started dating someone new. So it's a new relationship. And I think I know all this stuff about his family. And he goes, I never told you that. I'm like, oh my God. I literally, like, just, nothing super dramatic or big or anything, but this like, oh, these family members and that, and they live over here and this. And I'm kind of, he's like, how did you know that? I'm like, you didn't tell me that. I didn't see it on Facebook. And he's like, nope. And I'm like, all right, well, sometimes we just know things. And it really can be that subtle and almost that like asked for experience for me. And I know for a lot of mainly women, but intuitive people out there. So if you're listening to this and you have those experiences, I think everyone should start to give themselves a little bit more credit. We are all way more intuitive than we know. We all think we're good at reading body language, or we have great imaginations, or, oh, they must have told me, I must have seen it somewhere. But I think more oftentimes than not, as you start to get into this stuff, we really need to give ourselves more credit that like sometimes we're just tapped in. Yeah.
And not like freaked out about it. Because I remember before that we found out that before we started doing psychic work, hanging around other psychics. So it's kind of intimidating of reading mind, but it's not like that at all. It's like you are intuitive. Everyone's intuitive. I like that you brought up the body language because it's kind of same thing. I have someone that I coached and they have that kind of like touching ability where, yeah, when I give people hugs, I know that they just had an argument with their mom. I was kind of, oh my God, that's crazy. But us being intuitive and we're doing the same thing. We're just like feeling into the person's energy. And it's very, very normal. It's nothing that's super crazy or out there. It's just like, yeah, picked up on your vibe. Felt this kind of way about you. Everyone does that. Everyone has gut feelings.
Yeah. The way I love to explain that too is like the mother's intuition, because that's an age-old example. And you go and tell any mother that they don't have an instinct or an intuition or know, like, oh, nope, the baby's about to cry. The baby, oh, here comes like the thunder, the baby's a boom, the baby cries. Like that is a real intuition that gets accessed about a subject that that person really cares about. A mom really cares about and loves their newborn baby. So of course they're so tapped into its energy field, and there's that physical connection, they give birth. And then of course they're going to have these instincts around that energy that they're, growing and nurturing. And so I think that it's kind of it's just like that. It really can be that simple when you start to look at your intuition around friendships or in the workplace or romantic
out in
partners.
the world.
Did you say the whole world?
I said out in the world.
Out the whole world, intuition around the whole world. Oh.
Yeah. So, what are some interesting things that we can talking about that, like tapping in, using our intuition? Is there anything that we could tap into?
I don't know if we can tap into it because I don't think either of us likes to tap into this. So great segue, Grace. But that talking about the whole world, that made me think of the people the intuitives out there who tap into like future predictions and what's going to happen on the world stage and different energies and stuff like that. Do you ever feel into those type of things?
I do, but I feel like it's so, it can go this way or that way, this way or that way, the potential of blah, 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 blah.
Changes very quickly. I feel the same way. And I feel sometimes too, when I get intuitive hits for the collective or for the world, sometimes it really is just for me. My guides will be like, oh, Grace, you're trying to make this big, intense message about the world, but it's really just like the medicine that I need to hear, right? Like the pill that I need to swallow, not so much the rest of the world. So I also think that's a really good lesson or like awareness for anyone who is trying to tap into collective energies, is that if you are the filter of that message, of any message, it's coming through your lens, your perspective, your life experience, and ultimately I want to say your soul, but your soul's perspective. So it's gonna have to be something that you relate to or that applies to your life. And so the people who are really good at predicting the world stage stuff, so the events that happen on the world stage, they have perfected that. They know how to filter through their own stuff, their own community stuff, and then what's for the world. And I admire that, and I have not gotten there yet. I don't know how to do it. I really don't.
I did some things in some Patreon video where I remember it was like October, the grocery stores are going to be a little bit kind of like less empty, and it didn't really happen. And I was thinking, well, that didn't happen just because I wasn't attached to that timeline. I'm sure somewhere in the world that grocery stores were a little bit empty. And that reminds me of like the 3 days of darkness thing that you've probably heard everywhere for the last however many years. They've been kind of saying that it's like that not happening because we're not attaching that timeline, or is it coming?
So the 3 days of darkness thing, I first started hearing about that in spiritual books and stuff that predicted around the 2012 stuff. I mean, that I've been hearing about on the internet since that age of, 2012 and the world is
Yeah.
ending. That's when they were saying December 21st, 2012, the grids are going down. We're all going to be out of power through the new year. And then for me, and I, haven't been following it closely, but then when the pandemic hit and all the spiritual kind of input and influence came around when COVID really happened, then all of
Yeah.
a sudden it was going to happen again.
Uh-huh.
It's being predicted. So I don't know, man. I really don't know when the 3 days of darkness are going to happen. And then I know we both heard some channels who talk about the 3 days of darkness being a personal journey too. Then doesn't actually physically mean you're in a blackout for 3 days or that the sun disappears from the sky for 3 days, but maybe it's just 3 days of really intense darkness, like quote unquote darkness, for your own soul's journey. We're all
Yeah.
going to go through it at
Shadow
individual
stuff.
parts and times. Like, okay, maybe.
Yeah, maybe we already did it. Maybe we already had our depression kind of cry phase and we made it.
Yeah, we're in the light. No more 3 days of darkness for us. I like that. I could feel into that. So that's fun. Do you often do energy predicting stuff on your Patreon?
No, I don't, just because I feel that, I don't know, it's a lot of pressure and kind of what you said, everyone's different. Everyone has a different kind of stuff coming up. I do share things that are like, hey, if you're going through this, I am too. You're not alone. You're not the only one. That thing that I preached a lot about of this is your biggest fear kind of coming up. I think that our little circle was like, we all have our own fears going on. So I shared a lot of that of
That's
this is
good.
what I feel collectively the earth or the universe is going through. But it's just little things like that of almost matches what is it, astrology stuff of
Mm.
Mercury retrograde, Aries is in somewhere, you know, that kind of
Aries is
thing.
floating around up there somewhere. So no, that's a funny way to say it. I really like that. But I very much do believe in astrology and that the stars influences on us and that, we do collectively definitely go through similar, you could use the metaphor of like a snake shedding its skin, like skin shedding events
Mm-hmm.
or collective growth points for sure. And then the more that a community comes together and says, oh, this is the time or this is the moment when this is going to happen or this is ripe to happen, the more collective focus that's on those dates or that time, right?
Yeah.
Then the more potential that there can be for someone who's really interested in, I don't know, having an awakening around the solstice, the summer solstice, or something like that. That was just kind of a random example, but that sounds pretty cool. I think everyone should go join your Patreon and check it out. Cool stuff.
Thanks.
And I know you're doing live events on there now too, right? Where you show up live.
Yeah, I go live every Friday. Been playing around with different times so far, but usually 3, 5, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Answer people's questions, psychic questions, or past loved ones kind of questions for half an hour. Pretty much what I used to do on Facebook. I just moved it there to my
Oh, fun.
smaller community.
That's good. Everyone should go join that.
Thanks.
I'd tune in.
Mm-hmm. Collectively, what do you feel are some themes that we're going through now? I have a opinion on this.
All right. I'm really a tune in tapped in. This summer to me is always, and I'm really connected to the seasons and the outdoors. So obviously I'm in the northern hemisphere in North America. So the summertime is this time of, greater sunshine, more outdoors, much more like an energetic output. But, this summer, these next, we'll call it 3 months, for me actually really feels, and when I say for me, I mean for the world, for the collective, but through me feels like a very uncomfortable time, meaning I feel like a lot of people are trying to either get back to old rhythms. When I say old, pre-COVID,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's like puzzle pieces that might not fit, right? You're going back to workplace or you're entering back into that friend group or you're trying to do things the way that they used to happen. And anything that just really doesn't fit anymore and that doesn't serve you, I feel like it's going to be so uncomfortable, almost like heightened uncomfortable, that it's going to be so obvious to us that we just got to let it go.
Yeah.
Really, really don't be afraid, I would say, to anyone listening out there to kindly, with kindness, delete the friends from your life that aren't nourishing you, so that you don't most of the time walk away from that conversation with them feeling good. 9 times out of 10. That's how I like kind of make that distinction for myself. But deleting those friends, really thinking about actively taking steps towards a career change, or just really better ways to have conversations and to speak up for yourself, because I just feel like a lot of us had awakening experiences during COVID, and now we're like entering what we think is the same world, but it's not. It's very different, and we are different. We are so much more, I'll use the word sensitive, but I don't love the word sensitive because it feels disempowering. It feels like, oh, you're so sensitive, like go sit in a corner. Oh wow, you're so sensitive, you can't handle this. Actually, I think we're more sensitive so we can really handle what's what's evolving and what's happening. We can even further handle and understand and like kind of feel into things that are around us. So I believe sensitivity is a superpower, but I think a lot of us are way more sensitive than we give credit for, to ourselves for. And so if we don't start figuring out ways to navigate our lives, unapologetically saying like, this is what I want and need in these relationships or these spaces or people, places, things, right? And throwing out the rest, I think it's just going to continue to get more uncomfortable. And that's what I think the summer is about for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
surprised we haven't talked about this. Same thing that I've been
Yeah.
feeling. This actually came up in a reading that I had. So if you're
Amazing.
listening,
We love it.
we talked about you can't do the old stuff anymore. You can't get triggered in the old kind of way anymore. I feel that a lot of this summary kind of, or just the next coming months, is so much of shifting and growing and peeling back this isn't working, got to get rid of this, got to change this, got to feel uncomfortable, so that you kind of have to, or really inspired to like be the best version of yourself, or different, or like striving for like, okay, I'm really doing it, I'm really changing the friend circle or the job, and making these strides to like put me first, or whatever makes you feel super empowered or just different or happier.
Yeah. And this is why a lot of, people in our circle, but people who have really worked on themselves and taken steps in the past, since 2020 started and everything changed, I feel like it's a smoother ride because they've gotten
Yeah.
used to and set those boundaries and have made some of those decisions. And then for some people in my life and in my world, you kind of watch them continue to flail, and they're going to keep flailing until almost like you're pushed to a breaking point. I don't love saying that because I mean, that is the image I'm getting, but that also sounds very aggressive. But it's just this point where, what is that? Did Albert Einstein say that? That's funny because we were talking about him earlier. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing but expecting different results. He did say that, right? It's kind of like that if you've got things in your life that aren't working. So ways to like talk through conflict with people around you, right? Ways that you say you're still single, you want a relationship, like how you date or how you move through a first, second, third date, all those things. If you've got these old habits that don't work, I feel like it's going to continue to suck until you make the changes in you. That's why I say sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. And it sounds so aggressive, but ultimately it's going to help a lot of us sensitive people really empower ourselves. Yeah. Oh, deep,
And
deep.
I kind of feel 2020 and the beginning of our 2021, we said, oh, we had such a hard time, was kind of that of shaking it up. This isn't working. Do something, change, forcing you to change. And now it's kind of that leftover lingering, still changing, still uncomfortable, but we know what we should be kind of doing, more kind of clarity. Hopefully, other people are feeling.
Yes. And feeling good when you do make a change and you watch the difference and how people, places, and things react to you differently in your reality. It's really joyful. And it's really like you can take a deep breath and embrace that change too. So I mean, I see a lot of that for people who are really willing to just continue to every day show up for themselves. It's kind of all of this, what is that, the Instagram spirituality, like, oh, show up for yourself, and all of these taglines that kind of get passed around at surface level. For me, they're really starting to resonate as I've done the work deeper and deeper. It's like, oh, I feel like I've lived that now. I feel like I understand what it means to authentically be me and show up authentically as myself. Whereas before that was kind of just a slogan where you're like, all right, I'll be authentic.
Yeah, I get it this time around.
But I kind of got lost in that there. What I was trying to say is that it is getting better. It's all for the purpose of everyone really understanding how to be their best selves, as we do get back to the new normal, which is, it's a
Mm-hmm.
very different world. My world is 100% different, and it's going to continue to be 100% different from what it looked like 2 years ago. And I think that's true for a lot of people. So if you're out there and you're wondering like why you're still lost, or why getting back to normalcy isn't helping you feel better, this could be why. It could be that there's just a lot of different habits and things that don't serve you, that it's time to really let go of.
Yeah, embrace the change and go with it and go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's what I think this summer is. Be brave. And if you've got people around you who are just miserable, when you can, have some kindness, because they're probably really uncomfortable in their lives on so many levels. This
Mm-hmm.
is great advice I will write down and take later. I'll write it on my hand so I'll remember to be
Yeah,
kind, because it can be hard. But
have compassion.
yeah, there's a lot of suffering right now. There's a lot of people not, and especially when we, not going to bring up
Yep.
politics, but when we start to look at politics, we start to look at the world, and everyone thinks they know the answers for certain things. And people are so upset when their community doesn't, see it the same way as them. I think that we all just need to have a lot of compassion, because everyone's just trying to feel better. Everyone's just trying to solve it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Everyone's doing the best they can with what they got and how they're acting and behaving, just what they know.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you see for like for travel, or for like opportunities for people in general in the summer, like this summer? Do you see a lot more
Mm.
like expansion, and like, and maybe this is, we've already answered that question, but do you see?
No, I feel like that's a different thing. I mean, yeah, expansion is a good way. I see kind of people being brave and taking like that risk or that jump, even if it's just going on a vacation or changing up their kind of, I'm going to go to this park, or I'm going to change my routine and go here. I'm going to travel here. I'm going to take that trip to kind of do this because it just like feels right, because it just feels like my window, because it just feels kind of scary, or I need to shift something. That's what I feel when we tap into that of like expansion. It's not like, go travel to Europe. I don't know if you're available to do that now, but I feel like a lot of the like courage and I have to do this and I have to take time for myself and I have to be changing is the collective kind of thing I feel about that. Is that the way that you did you word that how you wanted to? You know what
I
I
think
mean?
so. Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree that those big changes, or these big, like we're talking about being brave, and these big leaps, they don't have to be like, it's not like saving the world or a giant, oh, I'm buying this home, or I'm going to move across the country. It really can be, I'd
Mm-hmm.
never let myself take a whole week of vacation from my job, because I'm a people pleaser and I don't have boundaries around my work-life balance. But this summer, I'm taking a whole week off, and I'm putting the phone down. I'm not going to answer a single email. That could be the bravest thing you've done in
Yeah.
years. And that could be so significant for how you like relate to yourself, and the boundaries you're going to have with work moving forward, and your work-life balance moving forward. I mean, I agree that that could be someone's miracle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're both going through that too, in like the small kind of baby way. We both can getting the message insight to meditate outside, do readings outside, channel outside. And it's like,
Yeah.
I can't. This is why I can't. But when we do make that tiny, tiny, silly shift, it's gonna be, we're so brave.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I spend a fair amount of time in nature, but my guides keep pushing me to exactly what Jamie said, connect outside, like do more work outside. And it feels like it should be easy, but it's hard to coordinate. It's hard to feel comfortable outside necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but I always feel better outdoors in nature. Always
Mm-hmm.
100%. So it's funny, because it is one of those simple things where I'm like, what can I do? And they're like, the same thing we've been saying. Get
Mm-hmm.
outdoors, ground yourself, less
Mm-hmm.
phone, less TikTok. TikTok is great, but hours of it, less
TikTok.
TikTok, more, more or less scrolling, I should say, maybe more presence outdoors always helps. Never
Mm-hmm.
hurts.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. That one and my guides are consistently giving me rest more, like literally like physically lay in bed, sleep more. And that's annoying too, but I have to start listening to it, because I'm like, why does my head hurt? They're like, sleep. I'm like, come on. No,
Oh,
it can't be that. But they're like, well, this
uh-huh.
is only going to help.
Uh-huh. I get that too, but I feel like I take my like guides up on it of I sleep 9 hours a day, but I'm supposed to, but I need to because I hear that. So I'm gonna push the snooze button. I'm gonna keep on sleeping.
Good. Okay. I'll follow your lead. I'll follow your example.
Mhm. Well, this has been super fun. Really nice to
I
chat
think so
about and
too.
interesting. I hope for some others. Hopefully, people are feeling lighter and better and uplifted, and that you're not alone, that you're doing a great, amazing job, and trust your intuition, and you're not crazy.
You're not
To
alone.
listen to the what we were just talking about, the need to do this, need to do this.
Yeah.
Listen to yourself.
And go on that vacation. Give
Mhm.
yourself that break.
Take it, do the self care, change up your routine. Before I let you go, though, Grace, how can people find you if they want to do a psychic or a mediumship reading with you or do some intuitive coaching?
Yeah, well, you can look up. So I'm Grace Taylor. So on TikTok, I'm grace.taylor.intuitive, and on Instagram too, grace.taylor.intuitive. And I'm also on Facebook, Grace Taylor Intuitive. And any of those places has the link to my scheduling. And I would, yeah, just love to connect with anyone who feels called.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Love your energy. Those would be great, kind of reading some stuff from you. I love your style and I love your content.
Oh, I love you too, and your style too. Thanks.
Great. Well, awesome. Nice talking to you, Grace. Until next time.
Good talking to you too, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
Mhm. Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye.